Reggie. I talked about how a lot of people have been clamoring and dropping this name on social media. And as far as Jesse Bates, he's the safety for the Cincinnati Bengals, and he more than likely is going to be a free agent this year because he played on the franchise tag for like what 12.9 million or so.
Big money.
I'm sorry, 11.9 million. Nice bit amount of change right there. So
yeah, and $100,000 is not moving him, so he wouldn't
no,
be in the
not
dunk
at all.
contest either.
That's probably not going to you move him as either. Is when you actually think about it. So I think the first question I want to ask you is it's not necessarily Jesse Bates. We'll get to that, but I think one of the things as far as when you look at what the Falcons defense was this year, do you feel like a Jesse Bates can enhance what we saw last year to the point where it'll be worth the type of money that he'll command in free agency?
Look, I'll tell you this. I think that regardless, you look at how last season kind of went, and
Right.
it was crazy because as soon as you had one player go down on that defensive side of the football, it was really a wrap. I mean, there was those weeks where we didn't see AJ Terrell, and it just felt like me or you could go out there and throw for 350 yards against the Falcons. And I mean,
Indeed.
and I feel like, unfortunately, because of that reason and because of that reality, yes, you've got some talent back there. It's just you need some more depth. So, I mean, in a guy like Jesse Bates, it'd be important to bring him in just off the strength that you need to be able to guard people. I mean, the league has changed so much, right? Especially you just look at how these quarterbacks are playing, how the rules are set up, these wide receivers and the way that these coaches are scheming people up. It's really almost impossible to guard anybody or stop anybody offensively, right? So you need to be able to have Pro Bowl level guys be able to play in that secondary. And I think that naturally, if this was a season where the Falcons didn't have a lot of cap space and they had to be really picky and choosy on what they wanted, then maybe, hey, you don't go after it. But I mean, you've got the second most cap space in the entire league ready to rock, right? You need probably a pretty good safety to be able to kind of lock things down, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think you'll still have money to be able to kind of make some other moves. You still got that top 10 pick that you could spend on. I don't know. I feel like you're a defensive line guy. You're trying to get somebody to rush the passer. I mean,
no doubt, yeah.
There's so many things that they kind of need. And you feel pretty good about Richie Grant, but I mean, it's like, hey, if you could bring in a Pro Bowl level guy and have a second high level safety back there, and you of course have AJ Terrell, and maybe you pick somebody up in the draft, maybe to help out as well in the secondary, you can feel pretty good about yourself. So personally, I say you go after it, but you don't seem to be a guy that wants that to go down.
Hey, here's the thing. Here's my thing, right? Like when you think about like safeties in the NFL today, like when you talk about how much they pass the ball, how much the ball is being passed, slang around all over the yard nowadays, and you would think there would be some guys that for me to kind of move the meter. So because I come from the standpoint of I'm used to seeing guys like Ed Reed, Troy Polamalu, Steve Atwater, Cam Chancellor, Earl Thomas. Those are the type of guys that I feel that are game-changing guys.
Yeah.
Guys that I wouldn't mind spending that type of money on, or at least having the conversation, right? When I think about Jesse Bates, I don't get that feeling. I talked about it earlier. Like he doesn't move me. He doesn't really move me because I've watched him in the playoffs. I watched him did up by Travis Kelce. Now Travis Kelce does that to a lot of safeties and corners and whoever is guarding him in the league.
Does not matter.
So my thing is like you can have that getting deal done once, but you got to get them back as well. And I never saw that from Jesse Bates. Now he was an All-Pro in 2020. I wholeheartedly get that. But when you guys think about this, right? When you think about their contract year and being in the contract year, knowing the team more than likely is not going to bring you back in, and then it has to be a reason why they're not bringing you back. Because if you were so that valuable, they'll go ahead and cut the check. And Cincinnati understands what they got coming up as far as on the offensive side of the football, and it just don't add up. So I think for me, if you're talking about a safety that was an All-Pro once, a team is letting them walk out the door, and a guy who made almost $12 million last year on a 1-year contract, I already know what he got in his head. At least we starting at 11. We're starting off at $11 million, as far as from a negotiating standpoint. And I just don't see Jesse as that type of guy to pay that type of money.
And I can understand that. And I think that you're right. It's all about kind of who's available and what's kind of an offer, right? And I think that's why it's so interesting, right? You're moving into this offseason with the Falcons where like they're not handcuffed, right? You've got options, right? You really could, mess around and pick him up, or you could say no. and find another guy, or you could just do it all in free, like in the draft. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you just have to actually be able to make some good picks here in the draft and maybe avoid the whole best on board situation, or really just pick for your actual needs. Like, this team probably should do at least once. Like, I just think there's so many other options. So I mean, I don't know. I think that if you can get him, might as well roll with it. But if you don't, you don't feel too terrible about it, because at the end of the day, if you can't get the money or the number that you want for him,
Yeah.
he's not like a guy that you're like, oh, I'm moving the needle for Jesse Bates. Like, thank God we
Yeah.
got him. I don't know if he's that
Yeah.
guy per se, but if you can get him, you can get him at a number that works for everybody involved. I think there's no reason to kind of go after him.
Yeah, I think, where this defense is with Ryan Nielsen coming in as the defensive coordinator and Jesse Bates, a guy who's an experienced guy who's well respected all around the league in the back end of the defense, coaching those guys up. I think that money can be better used in other places, right? And because we know that the Falcons need interior help to help Grady Jarrett out, and they need edge
Please.
guys as well. Because hey, guess what? I don't want to see Lorenzo Carter coming back as this legitimate starter for this team. No, I don't. And that's nothing to get. That's not a knock against Lorenzo Carter.
It
I'm
feels
not
like a
knocking
shot
him.
at Lorenzo Carter, brother. I'm not gonna lie to you. That feels like you picked him out by himself. I thought Lorenzo was all right.
Yeah, he was fine. He was fine. But again, I'm not about guys who were reclamation projects coming in as starters. I want to see their reclamation project. Can I see Arnold Ebiketie as a starter and getting starter reps and being out there more? Because I think he has something to bring to the table. So that's all I meant when I said that. Because Lorenzo Carter is a guy who's a free agent, and people got to figure, the Falcons and Terry Fontenot and all those guys, they got to figure out whether or not they want to pull the trigger on bringing him back for another year. So
Right.
I think that you can affect the game more by investing in your guys up front via free agency and in the draft, and it'll help out that secondary for those guys. Like, people might not necessarily be sold on Jalen Hawkins. He'll look better if you get a Jalen Carter with the number 8 overall pick. He'll be better. Richie Grant will look better if you bring in a Daron Payne if he becomes a free agent for the Washington Commanders. So all those things kind of like that's what my mindset is. I'm all about getting that front end better so the back end can be better. Like, because if you get more pressure up front, those guys gonna have more opportunities to make plays. And we've seen Jalen and Richie, when the ball is thrown their way, they'll catch it and try to make a play with it.
I think it's important that you do bring that side up, though. I mean, the attacking that up front first, and then it'll obviously, of course, make everything in the back end a little bit better. Because you look at just what happened with the Philadelphia Eagles this year, right? They had a fantastic front line, and I mean, Darius Slay is incredible, but maybe on that other side, it's a little bit more shaky. I mean, or a little, there's a little hole there in the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
the other guy they went after.
He had a solid season.
Overall, he had a solid season. But I mean, you look at guys like Deebo Samuel, who he's a guy, a pretty good guy in this league, right? He just talked about the fact that on that defense, their secondary looks a lot better because of who they have up front, because they're able to get to the passer. Now, mind you, I mean, if you really look at who they played against this year, which is maybe why they were good. Don't get me wrong, but they were going up against some B+ quarterbacks, Daniel Jones 6 times a year. I mean,
but you're grading on the curve too.
I mean, there has to be a little bit of that as well. You know what I mean? And so, like, I think there's aspects to both of it, right? So that's the thing. We're in a really good situation if you're the Falcons, right? Where you really can't get anything wrong. I think as long as if they go into it with a plan, like if you go get Jesse Bates, like, all right, fine. But you also probably need to actually use that number 8 pick on somebody up front, right? Or maybe come off that edge, right? Like you said, if you get a Jalen Carter, that would be fantastic for multiple reasons. Georgia guy here in town, people know how good he is. If you can get him,
he's amazing.
You're feeling real good about himself, right? He's feeling real good about himself. You know what I mean? And that's kind of where you want to go with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this offseason is very. It's going to be very interesting for Terry Fontenot. I've always said it's probably going to be the most important offseason for this regime and Terry Fontenot and Arthur Smith, that is, because, like I said, they have the second most amount of salary cap behind the Chicago Bears, and they have another top 10 pick, and we're going to find out where the investment is going to lie once March rolls around and this new league year comes in and they start making decisions, and we'll see how this roster starts to shake out. Now, Reggie. Now, for me, man, I've been on my little workout routine, right? I've been trying to figure out what's going on, try to get my life together, man. I've been working it out, getting it going. You know what's helped me out? How about this? Built Bar. Because Built Bar, as we go through the holidays, Start everybody trying to get back right. Everybody trying to get in the weight room and get in the gym and everything. And it's all crowded and stuff. And I'm waiting for those people to fall off the map so I can get my workout on and not have to worry about so many people around me and taking up all the I'm getting a little personal. But anyway, but yeah, Built Bar is the place where you need to go because it is not only a healthy option, it actually tastes good because it's 100% real chocolate. How about that? How can you ask for any more than that?
Can't
And
go wrong.
when you talking about flavors, man, let me tell you something. Reggie, they got the churro flavor.
Woo.
When I tell you, it is absolutely amazing. I've eaten churro Built Bars on this show live, man, because they're just that good. And you're talking about 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and 17 grams of protein, man. This is exactly what you need when you're talking about doing. Now, for all the people who've been ordering from Built.com, that's cool. But all the people who's trying to go into a storefront, if you're old school, you want to get into the store, they are in Walmart and Sam's Club. They are right there for you. So if you want to go to built.com and continue to order your boxes of Built Bars, that's cool. But go to Walmart and Sam's Club. They got all the big boy boxes right there waiting just for you.